I'm Richie and welcome to Helix Cloud Games, and this is SideQuest, a show where we take a step off the critical path and explore more what the video game world has to offer. On this week's show, I'm joined by Stadia Sauce's own Mr. Chris.
And Helix Cloud Games. Hello gamers, hope you're all good.
This week we're talking about Square Enix and what games should they be bringing to the Stadia platform. First, quick bit of housekeeping. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon for notifications when all our great shows go live, such as the Sounds of Stadia podcast, which comes out on every Monday on YouTube and podcast services, such as our Thursday night live streams, and such as this very show, which you can get in early access for as little as 99p by becoming a member of our YouTube channel. And if you've got an idea of what you want us to discuss on future shows, or just want to hang out with some awesome people, head over to our Discord. There's a link in the description. So Chris, like last week we decided to give a bit of a roundup on WB games and what games have got coming this year, might be coming this year, and what we think whether they come the platform or not. This week we're giving the Square Enix the same treatment.
So we locked down WB last week. We're back again, talking about a future roadmap, and we got another third-party developer. Do you want to approach this chronologically?
Yeah, roughly. We'll start roughly and chronologically, but we'll see where it's SideQuest. We'll see where the conversation takes us.
So I guess before we get into the games, then Square Enix notoriously have a good relationship with Stadia. They've got a multitude of games on the platform already, new and old. They've missed a few, which we're going to talk about, and they're a bit peculiar, Square, when it comes to third parties, because unlike EA and Ubisoft, who tend to just like put them out on everything, Square are quite happy to sign exclusivity deals for major franchises. Yeah, I mean, just kind of work with everyone on different things.
An example of what we're talking about is games of the caliber of a Final Fantasy VII remake is a PlayStation exclusive. Yeah. Which I couldn't see any other publisher doing, taking that was arguably their biggest franchise and a remake of the biggest game in their biggest franchise and going, we're only going to give it to Sony.
Yeah.
It's, I mean,
money
it's
talks.
Weird. Money talks, but it's a strategy that you just don't really see. I mean,
a lot of publishers do. Though?
Maybe. I think a lot of publishers do like unique stuff with Switch, but Nintendo is very unique themselves. But yeah, Square's weird. Let's just leave it there. Square's weird.
Square is very weird. So in terms of games, then we should look at their history to start with. So if we look at Square Enix going back over the last months and years, we got last year we had Life is Strange.
We did.
True Colours come across. We had Outriders launch in the March time. The platform Stadia launched with the entire Tomb Raider reboot collection. Yep. Tomb Raider, Rise, and what's the middle one? I always forget.
Shadow was the last one. It's Tomb Raider, Rise, then Shadow. Shadow's one I haven't played yet.
And great game. And the Avengers, of course, we got just the end of the year prior, so which is having continued support day and date. We should point out that all the content drops for Avengers have came in line with everything else. Outriders, not so much. And I guess next in the pipeline for Square Enix is the Life is Strange remaster, which is a pro game coming in just 2 weeks to this very platform.
It is.
However, we should probably rewind the clock a little bit, and I think they missed out on one of the bigger hitters of last year, which I would have probably bet it would have came, was the Guardians of the Galaxy title. And I think that, for me, is what should stimulate this conversation, because if you'd have asked me at the beginning of 2021, will Guardians of the Galaxy from Square Enix, the studio that made Tomb Raider as well, come to Stadia this winter, I would have said, yeah, of course it will. Stadia's in its second year. We've got all these other Square Enix games. Why wouldn't it? And then it came and went. It won loads of Game of the Year. It was my Game of the Year for 2021. Played it on PS5, unfortunately. And why didn't it come? And then do we need to scratch the surface, similar to the EA relationship, and think, is there something else to this partnership that's either not working out?
Well, as we've alluded to, Square almost like mercenaries in the video game industry. Like, if you throw them enough cash, they'll bring a game to your platform. If you throw them an even bigger bag of cash, they'll make it exclusive. They seem to be perfectly happy as long as they're getting enough money coming in. Because we're seeing exclusives with PlayStation, with Nintendo. With Tomb Raider, wasn't that timed exclusive, or was it Rise was timed exclusive on Xbox?
Yeah, on Xbox for a year.
Yeah, so I think this was a big miss. I think arguably Guardians of the Galaxy was one of the biggest releases from Square last year. Is effective essentially in terms of critical reception.
Yeah. I mean, comparing it to the other Marvel game, Avengers, very well received, adored by lots. Polarizing to Avengers.
It makes me wonder, did Stadia look at how Marvel's Avengers was received and went, no thanks Square, we don't want another Marvel game from you.
I mean, that's the biggest...
It's more not spending our money there, but they're very different games.
Oh yeah, they totally are. And I mean, actually, Avengers story, not too different from Guardian's story in terms of the gameplay.
Yeah.
The difference where they pivot is one turns into a multiplayer online thing with no end game. One of them is just a nice chaptered story that has a definitive ending, and it's just done.
Guardians of the Galaxy is focused. It knows what it is. It's a single player experience. You're playing one character. There's a party around you doing things. You're going to play through the story of these characters. You're going to fall in love with them. You're going to have a great time. Marvel Avengers. It's that. But it's also a persistent online thing where you're going to drop into levels where just cookie cutter, like copy and paste the same like 4 or 5 different activities to do in them, and it just kind of lost it. Once you get the multiplayer, it just kind of loses itself in what it is. It lacks that focus on what that game is, and the single player stuff was great. Like,
oh, completely. And I think just looking at it though, it not coming to the platform I think it's just a big loss for the back end of last year for Stadia, and why it didn't come, I have no idea. 2 years into your cycle, you've got a relationship with Square. Like, if it was a money reason, should have been sorted. If it was a Square not wanting to work on Stadia, that's an even bigger problem potentially. And I guess the roadmap ahead for 2022, they have a lot of titles coming out, and no doubt a lot of things in the works as well. If we don't see anything else come, that's one of the bigger publishers that have gone radio silent on the platform.
Honestly, a year ago, I would have went, right, they need to get a game like that day and date. But now, going into 2022, and how, after being a Stadia fan for the 2021, where I'm at now, is, if they came out, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is coming out this winter, 2022 winter, and it's coming to Stadia in 2023, I'd be okay with that. Like, I think now Stadia, like, in general, need to be getting the big games. I prefer day and date. Yeah. But they need to be getting them. Yeah. And they need to be announced at the time if they're going to be... Say, it's coming, it's going to happen later. That's fine. It's better than what you're on now.
We know the Switch gets games later, but that's more because the porting process of Switch, you need to down-res everything to run on the graphics that the Switch is capable of.
Or use
a lot of the games go on the cloud
offering, which is not great for Nintendo.
Which I know, but Guardians of the Galaxy was on Switch with a cloud version.
Yeah. Which
is kind of another laugh back at Stadia, when you can run these games perfectly fine, if not better than some other platforms. Looking at you, Cyberpunk on PS4. And yet, they don't have it, so why is the reason it's not here? And I know there'll be people out there go like, oh, Stadia don't need these games. They do!
They do.
They do. If you're blindly saying they don't need these, then guess what? They don't need EA games as well. They don't need Call of Duty Fortnite. So what are you playing? What are you playing on this platform this year? Tell me.
I mean, we're about to do a run of SideQuest of like the biggest third-party developers, so that's why we started with WB.
Yeah.
We've got EA, Ubisoft, Activision Blizzard potentially coming up. I'm not sure if we'll do that one or not. It depends if there's anything interesting. Same. We'll talk briefly Bethesda again. I don't think we'll do that one because
we'll do a miscellaneous.
Sega, it'll be miscellaneous. We're going to do a run of these, and the reason we're doing it is because these are the AAA third-party developers where the games are gettable. We're not going to. We're not talking about Microsoft owned studios, which is why I'm a bit funny on not. Yeah. I probably won't do a Bethesda one. We're not talking about Sony exclusive parties. We're talking about these are the publishers who are willing to put games on. They don't care. Square Enix doesn't care where you play their game. as long as you're playing their game.
Yeah, and
same
they
with
make money.
Ubisoft, like same with EA, same with Activision Blizzard. They don't care as long as the money's coming in.
Mm-hmm.
It's down for the publisher. It's down for the platform holders. They care where you play.
Yeah, they're a business, and the reality is, having your game on Stadia, it's not disservice to your game if you've got it everywhere else. So yeah, they wouldn't care. Guardians, to keep going back to it, was on Switch, PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox One and Series X and S, and PC. You could play it everywhere, except for Stadia and Luna. If that game was on Stadia and Luna, it wouldn't have done any disservice to the publishers or the developers. The game would have been just as fun and as good, just in more places. But it wasn't on the platform, and you got to ask, why? And if it's coming, like you said, Richie, if it's coming later, you should have just told us. Like, coming to these platforms now, Stadia and Luna maybe early 2022.
You got, if you come out and go, it's a game's coming out 2020, Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy. It's going to be 2021 on PlayStation, Xbox, and third quarter 2022 and Stadia. You're going to get kicking. Stadia's going to get kicking for that. Mm-hmm. But it's better than it not being there. It's like, oh, why isn't it coming? The answer's going to be, why isn't it day and date? But at least it's, you know it's coming.
Yeah, you'll
at
be
the
able
moment
to play
we
it
don't.
eventually.
So the assumption is
again,
it's not at the moment.
So, and like you said, the reason we're discussing these on these multiple SideQuest episodes is because the 2022 roadmap for the platform. Bear in mind, we don't have exclusives, so we have no God of War, no Horizon, no Halo Infinite, no Gears of War, Bethesda, nothing like that in the pipeline. So we have third party is the only way forward, unless they strike some second party dev deals up, which, as these studios get bought up left, right, and centre, it's Quantic Dream and stuff. It's hard to really see.
I don't necessarily think a second part. I don't think that's happening. To be honest,
I mean, even the ones that existed are non-existent anymore.
Yeah, if that was going to happen, I think they would have kept Stadia Games and Entertainment open as a overarching publisher for them.
Yeah. So we mentioned WB. We'll look at Square, EA, Ubisoft. We know. Game-wise, then, Life is Strange 2 weeks from now. Great, wonderful games.
Bring Life is Strange 2 as well. That'd be the only, you have the full set there, but.
Yep, all there to play. Guardians, whatever the hell happened there, hopefully we'll get an announcement imminent to say, yeah, it's coming in March. That would be great. It'd be a nice little get in March. I'd go back and play it on Stadia in March. It's a beautiful game. Game of the year. Why wouldn't you go back and play it? Yeah. What's next on the timeline, though, for Square? Because they've got a busy year.
They've got a busy year, and it's a weird year. So I must admit, there's a couple of games. There's rumours of games that aren't confirmed. They've got a lot of franchises that not confirmed. Next on the timeline, there's Babylon's Fall, which is a PlayStation exclusive. So let's just move on from that.
And PC?
And PC, yeah.
It's
going forward for the
it?
rest of this episode. If I say PlayStation exclusive, it's coming to PC. Probably coming to PC as well.
Yeah.
But because Sony, that's now where Sony are at. They're bringing the console
count Stadia as this as PC or
I don't think so. I think it's seen as a separate platform in its own right.
Or do you think they just disregard it so much that they don't even, when they say console exclusive, it could become the Stadia, okay.
I think most of these publishers, when Square is talking to Sony about Babylon's Fall and going, yep, it's going to be exclusive, console exclusive to PlayStation. We're okay with your publisher on PC, probably as long as we get a kickback.
Yeah. I
think you're going to bring up things like Luna, you're going to bring up Stadia, because cloud gaming is in that grey area a bit. Mm-hmm. And you want to have them discussions just so legally you know where you stand.
Yeah.
I don't think it'd be a big discussion. I think it'd be very much no.
Stadia and Luna should team up, and GeForce Now, and just do cloud-only versions, like exclusive to cloud.
Yeah.
And get some Final Fantasy tie-in with Square Enix while you're at it. Anyway.
Yeah, but the next one...
Ignore that one, yeah.
Yeah, the next one that's probably getting this Triangle Strategy as well, which is Switch exclusive, so again...
We mentioned that on last week's podcast, though. It's from the people who did Octopath Traveler, which is on Stadia. So I think after Switch has its year's worth of fun with it...
Yeah, I think if we're talking next year, I think we'll have that on the list. But again, I think it's at the moment it's a Switch exclusive. It's possible it'll come, because I think it should. It's not Octopath. It's not like a sequel. It is a different game. It's more of a strategy RPG, more akin to something like
triangle RPG.
Yeah, it's more akin to something like Final Fantasy Tactics and Final Fantasy.
Yeah, But it does have its terrible naming convention, like with Project
Yeah.
Octopath as well.
Octopath Traveler makes a lot of sense actually when you play the game.
Eight characters.
There's
Yeah.
eight key characters in the game, so it's not a great name, but it works. It does its purpose.
It does.
Anyway, Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origin.
Yeah, what is this? What even is this game?
First of all, they've got the name the wrong way around. So it should be Final Fantasy Origin, Stranger of Paradise, if Final Fantasy Origin is like a new Final Fantasy spin-off series. But that aside, this seems to be very action-focused Final Fantasy game, rather than got more... Final Fantasy's traditionally been turn-based. More newer ones are kind of being a hybrid of turn-based and action. This seems to be a straight-up action game. Comparable to something maybe like Ace on Stadia, but a bit more modern.
It's developed by Koei Tecmo as well, which we know are putting out the Dynasty Warriors title, which was just announced at the end of last year. So they are working. The developers who are making this are familiar with Stadia Tech and getting something out, and then at the same time, Square Enix are familiar with Stadia too. So this is where. I think, and we have a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah,
on
we've got 15
the platform.
Yeah.
So I'd say out of all of the games we're probably going to talk about, this has the biggest chance. But at the same time, I feel like I've heard nothing about it, and it comes out imminently, right?
Yeah, it comes out March the 18th. Well, I think this is one that's kind of fallen into the background a bit in general in gaming. If you're hardcore into your Final Fantasy, you're probably very much on top of it. But otherwise, this is... I think it looks like a good game. I really do. It just doesn't seem to have the same buzz around it that, like, say, if this was called Final Fantasy 16, this would be like top of the news agenda. Yeah. I think because it's a spin-off, and no one really knows what Final Fantasy Origin means. Because
I don't.
It's the Final Fantasy. I was telling Chris before the show what the Final Fantasy, like each numbered iteration of Final Fantasy is effectively completely separate to each subsequent one.
So what does Origin?
So how does Origin, like, it's not like, oh yeah, Final Fantasy 16 is not a continuation of Final Fantasy 15. So where does Origin come into it? Like,
it's so Richie, when they do the sequel to this game, they can have Final Fantasy Origin, and then it'll be Final Fantasy Odyssey, and then we'll get Final Fantasy Valhalla follow afterwards.
I really don't know. I'm interested in this game. It's probably something I'll skip on because of other things that come around February, March time, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but it might be something. If this comes to Stadia, I'm more likely to play it actually.
Yeah, I would be as well. From my history of the Final Fantasy games, it's like non-existent, bar like seeing you and some of our other friends play it. But I am interested in it, and I do admire it from afar. I'm just waiting for that jumping on point, and I think the next numbered entry, I believe, is more medieval fantasy rather than that, and it's piqued my interest. And I've got friends who obviously adore the remake and stuff from last year, so I just need that jumping on point.
7's a bit more steampunk, where 16 seems to be going a bit more to the roots, like more of a traditional fantasy. Yeah,
but not long to wait. And again, speaking of like in the podcast this week, but March 18th, not that far away. So if this is coming, you gotta tell us. You can't just stealth drop it and hope for the best.
I mean, if they do stealth drop this, I think this could get quite a bit of buzz in the Stadia community around. Mm-hmm. But it shouldn't be stealth drop. If this is coming, then we should know by now.
Yeah, 3 months out.
And if this was coming, I think if this was coming to Stadia, I'd definitely be more hyped for it. Because it's not announced for Stadia, it's kind of, I'm lukewarm on it. It's like, it looks like a good game, but it's not a game I need to play immediately.
Indeed. What else have they got in line for the year? More exclusives elsewhere?
Forspoken for PS5, which the more I actually look into, the more like I really want to play this game. I'm getting to the points where, like, before I kept forgetting what this game was.
Yeah.
I don't know what completely. It was about Forspoken. It's like, what's I know the words. Then you watch the trailer. Oh, that's Forspoken. Yeah, that looks really cool. But
this is the one we've seen at the PlayStation show. Obviously, it is a PlayStation exclusive, but similar to the Final Fantasy one we just had, it's on my radar. But I've seen it. I know it's coming. I've seen trailers. I've seen this, and I've seen where I can play it.
The traverse
so my hype can
awesome.
Build up for it.
It looks
it looks like that Unreal Tech demo.
Yeah,
we
it does.
saw, but just like kind of continued. So we'll see about that in the future. But at the moment,
I'm getting to the point where that might be a day one purchase for me.
Oh,
it's getting. It depends what I'm like closer to May in terms of my gaming backlog. But if it's like getting to the start of May, first week or two of May, and I'm like, I'm not like midway through a massive game, that could be a day one purchase.
Mm-hmm. If it makes you feel any more inclined to purchase it, Richie, the game's writing team includes Gary Whitta and Amy Hennig of Uncharted fame as well.
So you got Gary Whitta, for those who don't know, actually does a lot of podcasting with kind of funny games, and has contributed to Star Wars in a significant way. So
arguably the best Star Wars
and Walking Dead, actually.
Yes, indeed.
Respected authors, and Amy Hennig is well respected as the origins of Uncharted. Was it Uncharted?
Mm-hmm.
Amy
yeah,
Hennig?
Uncharted. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got caliber there. You got a decent pedigree.
Not coming because it is.
Yeah.
This is a paid for, as we said right at the beginning of the show. This is where Sony splash the cash and Square Enix go, we'll take the cash. You can have it as exclusive for a little bit more in the bank.
Anyway, moving on. Outriders is getting an expansion.
Yeah, there's kind of like a big year two for
I think
Outriders.
I think this will come. I don't see a reason why it wouldn't.
I think it'll come. Will it come in a timely fashion, day and date though?
I think they kind of need to, because they've got quite a bit of backlash for how they handled Outriders on Stadia. I don't think they'll want to make that mistake again. So
it's like 6 months, right? Like the delay for like the big patches was 6 months.
And we're talking
like
about it was patches that would make the game playable.
Yeah, it was a bit embarrassing on their part.
I don't know what Outriders is doing at the moment in terms of have the patches kind of saved that game, or is it just dead? I really don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, but we have it already.
Yeah.
Will this World Select expansion flip it on its head and give it the numbers that it wants to?
Quick glance in the Steam store. Recent reviews are mostly positive for Outriders, so
it was a well-received game. It was just we had that Stadia sourness to it, the fact that it didn't run well, and it was so far behind the version everybody else was playing, who paid the same price.
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking,
it
how is it being received? How is it getting received nowadays in general? But it seems to be mostly positive, so it looks like it has turned itself around, at least according to Steam.
Yeah, I don't think it was ever badly received. I just think it went quiet. It fell off a cliff very, very quick in terms of player base.
Yeah, it was like that spike lasted like a week, and then everyone moved on.
Yeah, it was like Game Pass and launch, and then blah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess akin to that, you've got the Avengers continue. We don't have a roadmap for 2022 with Marvel's Avengers yet. However, we know it's getting new characters rumored, and I think they're committed to chipping away at it because I think they have to. They've kind of committed so much now. I'd love them to turn it around.
I don't know.
We'll see.
I hope they turn it around. I really do. I think adding more characters won't just turn it around though, because I think every time they bring out new character drop, they'll have a spike of player base as like me and you jump in, play for one evening, play through the campaign, and then not touch it again. Yeah. And that's the problem with that game. Eventually, though, it's like because all the DLC's been free so far. Mm-hmm. Why the hell? Where they're making money to continue the development?
Well, apparently there's some reports they're making some tidy amounts on cosmetics at the moment.
Yeah, maybe.
So there's a few things saying like actually, there's a lot of, and the cosmetics are pretty sweet. To be fair, like the variety of comic heroes, and now they've got the proper Avengers gear in there from the movies. It is going away, which makes you think like again, Avengers is a huge IP. And credit where credit's due, they have got all the content day and day on, and the updates do come for Stadia. So
I think we're getting close to being due for another Avengers War Table with a content roadmap for this year. And I think if it doesn't happen by the end of February, I think the game is basically done.
Yeah, I think February.
I think they'll support it to a certain degree as long as they make enough money, but I think the devs will be getting moved off it onto other projects.
Yeah, I mean the next move has to be free to play, right? That's like the next big thing. Like it's been on sale so regularly now. Then, free to play.
The problem with free to play is if they are making money off cosmetics, free to play could be the way to go to get more people in.
And again, it is Avengers, so hopefully the IP will keep like a trickle of players coming into it, being like, "Hey, I want to play a superhero game."
It might be what we've seen with PUBG at the moment, where when they went free to play, a load of people have jumped in. Probably people have been put off by like the pay gate on it. Like, you know what? It wasn't well received, so I'll give it a pass because I didn't want to buy the game. But free to play, there's no reason for me to not jump in, and it could have a good life as a free to play game because it's just the game's fine, but it's a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not worth top. I don't think it's worth the top end money. The single player campaign is really good. You should pay that. But or maybe you do that. You put the single player, keep that as a premium content, and you just give the online multiplayer as free to play.
That could be a good segregate your actual game off into two modes. If you want story content for, say, I think She-Hulk is the rumoured next one. So you play a little story where it ties in with Bruce Banner. Great, that's like £10, £12. But then all of the online stuff, like you can still play as She-Hulk, but just not get the story beats. So we'll see.
I'm past the point where I expect them to truly turn it around to be like this, like long-standing game. I think it's got another year in it, probably at best.
We shall see. It might even get the Guardians of the Galaxy in there because Square Enix have all the IP assets to just drop over as like a full content drop. Yep. Maybe when the next movie comes out, we'll see. There's a long roadmap, hopefully.
Possibly. Let's run through a quick couple of franchises that we don't have any confirmation on, but it feels like they might be ready for the next game in the series. Tomb Raider, for one. Yeah, I think we're ready for a new Tomb Raider game.
Yeah, it's Lara Croft's 25th anniversary celebration, I think, all last year into this year. So I love the trilogy, the reboots. They're on the platform. Yeah, another one. Like, stop messing around with these 70 different games of random IP.
Last year meant to be? It wasn't an anniversary for Tomb Raider, or was that 20? And then nothing happened really. Like,
yeah, it's last year.
Yeah. Anyway, Just Cause. That it could be. Maybe we're ready for a new Just Cause game. Potentially part of the collection.
Yeah, we got Just Cause 4 not too long ago. I can imagine a collection's probably the thing they're looking at. Like, they've put 4 games out now, so maybe a 5th is too far. However, saving some money and doing a collection is a cheap way of keeping the IP relevant while you test the water and see. I'd love to see them come to Stadia. It's why we don't have Grand Theft Auto and we've got Saints Row kind of filling that open world void. Just Cause does that in a great way. Just destruction and mayhem en masse.
Another one I think could go down really quite well. I was disappointed when this was announced, but the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters, the disappointment is mobile. Bring them to Stadia. Like, bring them to PlayStation, bring them to Xbox. Why have these awesome games? Because they've remastered 1 through to 6 as Pixel remasters. Why have them bogged down on mobile? I know you'll get a lot of sales in mobile, and we underestimate often how much of the gaming industry is on mobile. But I don't know why you wouldn't put these on other platforms as well. Because there's plenty of people who are nostalgic for the early Final Fantasy games, or like me, haven't played them and wouldn't mind jumping back into them. So bring them.
Yeah. Touch input.
Yeah. If you got touch input already on phone, they just translate that to direct touch on Stadia.
Yeah, direct touch.
Deus Ex, but I think that might be a dormant franchise now.
I think they actually explicitly said it's going on hiatus after the lukewarm reception of the last entry. I've never played a Deus Ex game. I know they're well received critically, but I don't think they have wide appeal.
I played a bit of Mankind Divided, but I just didn't really get into it.
Yeah, I think I played a bit of the opening of one of them that I think I got free on PlayStation Plus or something, and like you said, got it in, I started playing, I was like, it's not really vibing with me.
You know what? It reminds me a bit of Blade Runner, where it's kind of like comes out really well received critically, but doesn't have mass appeal.
Yeah.
Nier Replicant, the remaster of the original Nier game. That's another possibility because I don't think that's exclusive. No, it's not.
Not to my knowledge, no. Nier Automata, of course. I think they are working on a next entry. So again, these are games that they add double. They're kind of like they walk the line between AA and AAA.
I think I'd say the Nier games are AAA in the kind of sense something like Dragon Quest is a AAA, but typically we're not haven't been traditionally as exposed to it as much.
Yeah, well, again, it's all subjective, isn't it? As well, what makes it fit in those lines. But yeah, very well received. Win loads of awards. And again, just thinking ahead of like what variation in the library do you want on this platform? And you've got obviously this year you'd like to think Stadia are going to bring a slew of older titles across, which are great. Like we've said time and time again, I'd love to see things like the BioShock collection, all these old collections that are getting kind of repackaged and re-put out there. Get them across just to add gravitas to your library. So if someone signs up to the platform and goes, right, great, I get 45 games as part of my Pro subscription, wonderful, I'll have a look there. But at the same time, you've got the whole Tomb Raider trilogy, the whole Batman trilogy, the whole BioShock trilogy, to just delve in and go, you know what, I never played them before, and now I have a way of playing them on my phone, my tablet, my PC. All of the great reasons that cloud gaming provides in one place, where you don't need to be on a subscription. You can just opt in to buy them. I think the BioShock trilogy's been like £12 on the PlayStation Store. So it's like the fact that you could give me the option to play that on my phone or on my tablet, or someone who's never played them before, it's a great get. And I really think this library needs to build, and Square bring a lot of IP to the table that are like famed for like franchise history that people love. Bring some of them across.
Well, that's it. I'm like, with Square, they're one of them. It's like, yeah, I want your new games coming across, but I'd like to see. I'd be quite content to see some of your old games. Like, there's nothing wrong with padding out your the Stadia library with older titles. Like, some older titles are really well received, and we've talked before. It might have even been push, or it might not even be SideQuest, where Stadia could be a good way of almost a repository for games, so games aren't just getting locked into. Like, it's the problem with Sony have with the PS3. There's loads of awesome games that can't be played.
Metal Gear Solid, I don't think you can even play that on PlayStation. That's where it started.
So with something like Stadia, where you could just keep adding to the library, it gives a place for these games to exist. So you can go back and play them without worrying about the compatibility issues you would through PC.
That's what Xbox are doing, like with backwards compatibility. It's essentially game preservation in the cloud, where they're just saved in perpetuity to play for as long as the internet exists. Which
I'm glad you said the word preservation. I was reaching for the word, and just when your mind's blank, it's like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, but it would. Yeah. And like you said, once they're in the cloud, they're there, unless they get pulled like Football Manager. But that's a different
That's
thing.
A weird licensing unique thing to Football Manager, because that was pulled not just on Stadia.
It happens every year.
PC as well. Yeah, it's just one of them things. Like,
but just
I can still play Football Manager on Stadia. You can't.
Yeah, you own it. Yeah. But I guess bringing it all around, like there's a list of games, and I would love to sit here in 12 months' time and look back on 2022, when we do our Game of the Year and go, great Kickstarter with Life is Strange. Then we got Guardians of the Galaxy, Game of the Year winning title, dropped in the March. Bit late, but you know what? We got it. Triangle Strategy, it's exclusively ended with Switch, and it's coming early next 2023. We got some random games. Outriders was supported day and date. Avengers got better somehow. They brought the new Tomb Raider game is coming. We got all the Just Cause games ported across, with a couple of things sprinkled in there.
Looking at this list, I think we're ready for like a Square Enix press conference, because needs to be something about more info about what they're doing with Outriders for this year could be good. More info about Avengers for this year could be good. I mean, with Star Ocean, the Divine Force is a thing apparently.
A random thing, yeah.
Then what's going on with Tomb Raider? But at the moment, other than Forspoken, Final Fantasy Origin, and Babylon's Fall and Triangle Strategy, there's nothing really confirmed.
Yeah, I think a lot of game studios and publishers are going to have their own digital events in February time. I think PlayStation are rumoured to have one as well soon. So I think everyone's gone dormant over winter and COVID and pushback and stuff, and the peak season's over.
It's time for them to start. They're starting to ramp back up, and it's time for like, okay, we need to get our first quarter press conferences out.
Especially as all of these the end of tax years and shareholder meetings start to come about at the end of March. I think we're really going to see, like, let's face it, all these companies have to present something at the end of February, which makes all their investors come April the 1st, go, where do we need to reinvest? Where are we going to make our money? And these companies now have to showcase that, and almost, Richie, shows a roadmap for what the year ahead entails, so people have buy-in.
We only have 2 games confirmed for the 2022-2023 release window for that financial year for Square Enix. One's Forspoken, which is a PlayStation exclusive, which is May, and the other is Star Ocean: The Divine Force, which I had to do some digging, and Star Ocean typically falls into your Metacritics of the low 70s.
Yeah.
It's probably fine, probably enjoyable, but I don't think it's going to move millions of copies. And that doesn't have a confirmed release date, it's just 2022. So that's why I'm saying we're ready for that Square press conference.
Yeah, well, the last one I had was in the summer, so just checking out. But yeah, the last, and I think it was the first as well. The Square Enix Presents. We covered it on the channel.
Yeah.
It was June 2021, so actually they've gone over half a year now with nothing. So
February would be really good because they've got 3 games announced to come out in March: Babylon's Fall, Triangle Strategy, and Final Fantasy Origins: Stranger of Paradise. Yeah. There's 3 games in March, so there's half your press conference.
Just looking back quickly through it, they did in the summer one. They showed off Guardians for the first time, reveal trailer coming out the same year, which is a great turnaround. Pixel remaster, Legend of Mana, Marvel's Avengers roadmap with the War for Wakanda stuff, Nier Replicant, Final Fantasy, Babylon's Fall, Life is Strange: True Colors, and then that's it. So yeah, there's nothing that they showed off last summer that we know about for this year. So I think January, end of January, start of February could be a good shout to tell us what we're getting on Stadia. Yeah.
And as a last point, if I'm a publisher like Square Enix, I think I would commit to like a press conference once a quarter. There might only be like 10-minute YouTube video with a few trailers and go, hey, here's what we've got coming up in the next 3 months. But anything else you want to add before we wrap up, Chris?
I just hope we see more games. It's similar to last week with Warner Brothers. Like I think Warner Brothers has the stronger year ahead of it when compared to Square. But
at the end of the day, Square could very much easily come out February and go, oh, he's a loads of games.
True. But I just think, with the last week's show, this week's show, probably next week's show, collectively, we don't know if any of these are confirmed for Stadia. So it's not down to the developers and publishers to talk about it. It's Google. And I think everyone watching and listening will know that, something needs to be said or something needs to happen to showcase 2022 and beyond. But before we do fully wrap up, Richie, I just want to say congratulations on episode 50 of SideQuest. You've been hosting the show for 49 caveat weeks now. I know you want to celebrate at 52, but shout out to you. Thank you for hosting. You've done a great job taking the helm of your own show and getting comfortable in that hosting seat. So and I'm sure our viewers and listeners out there enjoy these small side quest topics that are only ever supposed to last 20 or so minutes and somehow reach nearly 40, but it's what happens when you talk about non-news specific things.
It's hard to know how long side quest is going to last. It lasts as long as the conversation does. But with that, that's all we have time for this week. Thank you very much for watching. If you've liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel so when you know more of our content goes live, such as the Sound Stadia podcast. If you want to listen to SideQuest on audio feeds, you can, where you should rate us as well. That's something I need to keep remembering. Head over to our Discord if you want to write in the topic or just talk to some awesome people. My name's been Richie.
My name's been Chris.
We've been Helix Cloud Games. Quest completed.